Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Now let's continue with the specific techniques of embarking on demand forecasting. The first one, the first quantitative technique we are going to look at is trend analysis. Trend analysis. And what trend analysis that is that it tries to predict the demand for human resources based on projections of past or historical relationship patterns over a number of years. And when I say it tries to um, make these predictions by considering historical relationship of patterns over a number of years, it simply means that it is considering certain archival factors that occurred in the past, and it is relying on it to make projections into the future to see if different results are likely. Now, it is also considered to be one of the simplest methods of embarking on HR demand forecasting. And it assumes that an organization's past employment needs are indicative of future needs when linked with an operational index. And basically, an operational index are the factors that we were referring to in the previous slides. So what are the various factors that occurred in the past and how did it affect the number of human resources we used? Now, if these factors are accurately ascertained from our archives and we intend to achieve similar results in the future, we can easily rely on those operational index to make the futuristic projections. Now, I have an example here. If a business has grown by 10% each year for 7 years, then managers can anticipate that this trend will continue. Hence, an increase in employee number across the previous 7 years will be projected to continue in future. In other words, when we looked into our historical data, we realized that each year the business continues to increase by 10%. So, for instance, if previously it was 7, then the next year 10% of 7 will be added to the 7. Then the next subsequent year, additional 10% will be added. And in all these um, increments, the corresponding figure is also averaged. Please, is it clear? Hello.
Yeah, we are listening, sir.
Good, good. All right. So that is about the trend analysis. You look into the past to see the from your archives the trend that ensued in the past, and you rely on those indices to make your projections into the future. Because you've not done the, you've not even done ANOVA. So I'm wondering how some of these things I can illustrate. But you just look at it in face value and we'll proceed. Now, what are the steps necessary when you want to conduct a trend analysis? The first one is that there is the need for you to select an appropriate index. So in the HR forecaster must select a readily available business index, such as sales level. And in my experience, depending on the product that the organization is into marketing and distributing, they tend to use that as their proxy. So for instance, GTUC, our main customers are the students. So one of our operational index, which we'll be using in making our estimates, will be the number of students that we were able to recruit. So if you are working for Coca-Cola bottling company, then your proxy will be the sales level you were able to make in the past, and how many people were employed to assist you in making those sales, and so on and so forth. So you have to select an operational index from your archives. Then you track that operational index over time. So if we select sales as our operational index, then we will go into about 5 years from now, no, 5 years into the past, how many sales we've been making in a continuum. So year 5, year 1, how many sales did we make? Year 2, how many sales? Year 3, how many sales? Year 4, how many? Year 5, how many? Then in each of these tracking, you also identify the workforce size over time. So if year 1, you made a sales of 5,000 bottles, how many employees were used in making those sales? Year 2, 6,000, how many employees? So that you just suppose the two. Now, you divide the sales volume by the workforce size in order to get the average of the business index. Based on that, you arrive at a figure like the 7% I used in the initial scenario. So primarily, these are some of the steps that you can go through if you want to make, if you want to conduct trend analysis. Now, one advantage of trend analysis is that if the organization is data-driven and they keep their records accurately, then they will be able to make precise predictions into the future based on those data. Now, a challenge of the trend analysis is that because it goes back into the past to retrieve data and rely on it to make projections, once there is a challenge in the retrieval of this information, then it means you cannot use this method. And even if you get access to the data, but it is tempered with, then your projections will also be what? Inaccurate. Think about it. You are dealing with numbers. So if the numbers you are using to make the calculations are fictitious, then all your predictions into the future will also be bogus. All right. Let's look at the second technique, which is ratio analysis. Ratio analysis is very, very simple. It's just like the trend analysis, except that it does not go into the past to retrieve information for the HR forecast to be done on it. Rather, it relies on what is happening now and what's the number of, it relies on the current proxy or index that we are trying to estimate and an accompanied human resources that we think can assist us to achieve it. So basically, the ratio analysis estimates HR demand based on ratio between assumed causal factors and the number of employees needed. So the assumed causal factors is the proxy I'm referring to. What are the various factors you think is likely to affect the demand of human resources in the near future? Now, if you put all these factors together, how do you think it correlates with the number of people that we need to hire or we need to use to achieve that objective? So although sales level is the most common proxy used by most organizations, other operational proxies like the number of units produced, number of clients served, production, that is the direct labor hours, and revenue per employee can also be considered. So that is what I meant by depending on the line of production or your core business, as an organization, these proxies or factors may change. So it primarily tries to link staffing levels to specific business activities, which are the factors. Now, ratio analysis is quite similar to trend analysis, but the primary difference is that there is no requirement for significant historical data. So unlike trend analysis, which can be conducted only when you have good archival or historical information to rely on, you can conduct ratio analysis without necessarily going into your history. So this is a typical example. Assuming we are running a water bottling company and our current workforce is 500 and our production for this particular year is 50,000 bottles. Please, are you thinking about the numbers I'm mentioning?
Yes, yes.
Good.
500 and then 50,000.
Very good. Our workforce is 500 and our production, is 50,000 bottles. Assuming
yes,
this coming Christmas, we anticipate that the demand for our water will skyrocket. And so we want to, we are envisaging that it will increase to about 80,000 bottles. Now, if you want to use ratio analysis
yes,
to do this estimate, a simple ratio and proportion, 500 is to 50,000, X is to 80,000. Then you cross multiply and you get the outcome. Do you have your calculators beside you?
Yes, we have some. I have my calculator here.
So quickly do it and let me see what you get.
And so now the 500 is the workforce. The 50,000 is the production.
Yes.
And then now you are projecting 80,000.
Yes.
So now we don't have the workforce to mark the 80,000, so we'll put X there. Is that not so?
Exactly.
Okay.
Please,
and you said we'll cross multiply, eh?
You cross multiply, yeah. Are you all following? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see.
What do you see there?
Explain.
Good. So we are saying that. Good. We are saying that currently we have 5,000 workforce. Sorry, 500 workforce. And we are also saying that the quantity we produce this year is 50,000, right?
Sir.
Yeah.
The answer will be 800. Am I correct?
800. Okay, let's wait for your colleagues to see. 800. Okay, let's wait for your colleagues to see. Hussein, what did you get?
I've not completed yet, but I'm confused on my way because say, are we using the same workforce? That's the 500 workers to achieve that 80,000 resource?
No. So Okay, let me take a response from any other person, then I'll explain very soon. Okay. Yes, hello.
Okay. All right.
The X value will be 800.
You also got 800.
Yes, please.
Okay, all right.
Because what's happening is we'll be having 500 over 50,000.
Yes.
Multiply up by X over 80,000.
Over 80,000. Yes.
Good.
Yeah, then you do cross multiplication.
Yeah, you
So
get
we'll be
800.
No, we'll be doing most you do most.
Yeah.
So we will be having 5,000 out into bracket 80,000 plus S bracket will be 50,000 inside. Then you close it. So we'll be having 5,000 multiplied by 80,000. That will give us almost 4 million something. And then the X multiplied by 50,000 give us 50,000 X. Then, yes. Then you make
so you divide.
You divide
exactly
by 5,000 to get X.
Yes.
40 million over 50,000. The X will give us 800.
Precisely so.
Exactly so. Exactly so.
So you see, the ratio analysis is very, very straightforward. That one, you rely on the current information you are working with. Then you use it to make your projections. So the current information we have now is that we have a workforce of 500 people that are currently producing 50,000 bottles, right? Yes. That is the current information we have.
Yeah.
And we are saying that in the near future, the demand for our products will skyrocket. And so we anticipate that we will need to produce at least 80,000 bottles. Now, to do this, how many human resources should we have on board? You just do cross multiplication. Okay, this time, this time, this. Then you do it. Very, very simple. So most companies that are constrained by, that are challenged by inaccurate historical data prefer using the ratio analysis as opposed to the trend analysis. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, so these are the differences between the trend and ratio analysis. When you go, then you look at it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Jennifer. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, Jennifer. Hello.
Please take that one again.
The calculation.
Take it again.
I'm struggling to hear what you are saying. There are some breakages in the line. Can you repeat what you just said?
I was saying I didn't hear you well, so kindly take it again for me.
What I said about the calculations. Or which one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, what you said about the calculations.
All right. So I'm saying that with the trend analysis, can you see my screen now? Good.
Yes, I can see it.
Good. The issue with trend analysis is that it is predominantly used when, as an institution, you do not trust the historical data you have compounded. And so to make up for it, you are only interested in using your current data you are working with to make your future projections. In the scenario I presented, I indicated that we are having 500 employees working in a bottling company. And for this year, they've been able to produce 50,000 bottles. So that is the current data we have. Now, we are anticipating that because of the quality of our products, the demand for it will skyrocket to 80,000 bottles. Now, how many people will we need to be successful? So to do this computation, there is no need for you to go into your historical data to retrieve what you did in the you've been doing the last 5 years. You can simply use ratio and proportion by saying that if 500 employees is equal to 50,000, then how many employees, that is the X here, will be equal to 80,000. Once you strike this equation, you multiply 500 by 80,000. So, okay, let me do it here. It becomes 500 times 80,000 all over 50,000 is equal to the X. You cancel the zeros. Then you will have 100 times 8. So that is why we got 800. So the answer to this projection is that in order for the organization to be successful in producing 80,000 bottles of the water, they will need 800 employees or 800 workforce. Please, is it clear now?
Oh, sir, please, can you go over it again, please?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I should go over it again.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please, who am I speaking with?
Sir.
Sir, this is Helen.
Okay, all right.
Sir.
Yes, Genevieve.
Before you move on, I would like to know the 800 that you have as a
workforce.
Available workforce. I mean that you add it to the current 500 workforce, or just 100.
Please, Ellen, mute your microphone. Jennifer, you to mute your microphone. Genevieve, I really like it. I love the question you asked. Can you ask it again?
I'm asking. The 800 workforce that you have found.
Yes.
Does that mean that we are going to add 800 workforce to the 500
or
workforce that we have at hand, or is 300 out of the 800 that they will add it to the 500 at hand?
Very good. Please, who can answer this question?
Sir.
Yes, Husseini. Okay, go on, Jennifer.
For me, I think it is just 300, which will be added to the available 500.
Okay,
workforce.
Why the 300?
Because with 500 people on board, they were able to produce 50,000. And now, what was projected was they producing 80,000. And then we are to look for the other workforce which will join to help in producing this 80,000. With that, we already know that they already have 50,000 on board. So we are just to add a number of them to be able to come on board to produce the 80,000 they are looking for.
Thank you very much.
So not 50,000 workers, but rather we have 500 workers.
Yes, 500, not 50,000.
So not 50,000. So we needed only 300 to join the 500. So it will make 800 to produce 80,000 products.
So that is why, if you remember,
hello. Please let me come in, please. It shows clear that when you get 300, when you add 300 to the 500, it will be 800. But I said the way you did the calculation, that's where I don't understand. That's why I said if you can go over again. I know because for instance, they can give you a figure they can give you a figure that you cannot totally get it just like that, as you did as 500 and 800. So do you get it?
Yes, okay. One at a time.
The issue, yeah, the issue is very simple here. I've written down the whole thing, the question that we attach. I've written something like, if you have 500 employees that can produce about 50,000 products, how many people do you need to produce 80,000?
Yes.
That is what I wrote on my book.
Yes.
And I decided to work on it like we did on the board. Then the X which is representing the workforce to produce the 80,000 people. No.
Yes.
At the end of
what you are saying, but what I'm saying is that yes, for the figures that Sir gave us, for you to calculate is very clear. But going for maybe you get a figure that you can't calculate it just as simple like the way he gave it to us. So that's what I'm saying.
No, so listen. You have to understand it. You have to understand it, and then you do it systematically. Now, initially, we are saying that 500 people were producing 50,000. How many people will be needed? So in this question, you will need 800 people to actually produce the 80,000 bottles. If you write 300, the 300 is wrong. However, if you are implementing the action plan, that is where you will have to deduct the 500 from the 800. Then you tell us that there was a deficit of 300. Please, are you following?
Yes.
So this 300 over here, that is what in the human resource planning process I presented to you last week, and I think I even gave you an assignment on. When you get to the action plan, over here, because what we need in future is greater than what we actually have now, it means we have a deficit. And so you have to work on this deficit. But in totality, you will require 800 people to achieve this level of production, which is the 80,000. Please, is it clear?
Very clear.
Good.
We are clear.
No.
This one is just the basics, so don't be confusing yourself. I'm saying that the question was requiring you to estimate the number of human resources that will be required to achieve an output of 80,000 bottles. 80,000. Now, the current information we have is that of the 500 workforce, they are able to do 50,000 bottles. So how many will you need in order to achieve this 80,000? And using the ratio analysis, it's just ratio and proportion. You will crisscross 500 times 80,000, this times this. Then depending on how it will make sense to you, I prefer to express it this way. So by multiplying 500 by 80,000, that is the one at the top here, the numerator. Then the denominator is the division by 50,000. And that is exactly what I've done here. If you fractionalize it.
If you need the figures, I'll give it to you.
Which figures?
That when you multiply 500 times 80,000, what you get is
okay, maybe. Is it that you wanted me to multiply it initially so that
they will see the figure there? It's about 40 million.
Okay. I get you now.
So when you multiply, you get 40 million. So, and then when you multiply X by 50,000, you get 50,000 X.
Okay, I get you now.
Then you divide 40 million divided by 50,000, then you get 800.
Okay, I get you. But
from go to quantity to do the same, okay?
The thing is, now let me tell you, to be on the safer side, even in your quantity classes, it is always appropriate that you work with the smaller numbers than compounding it or multiplying to be working with the huge figures. In my experience, if you don't punch it well on the calculator, it will be misleading you. And the figures I've given you over here are quite simple. You can go around it. You have 5,500 here, 50,000 here, 80,000 here. So why do you multiply it and go, the zeros up here and down here are also the same? That would be a convoluted process for me. So once you understand the numbers over here, you can use your own approach to arrive at this figure. If you get 800, it's okay. All right.
Okay.
Now, regression analysis. Let me see the time. Okay. So let me do the theoretical explanation of regression analysis. Then we will do the demonstration in the subsequent link that I will share. Now, when we talk about regression analysis, it is just like correlation analysis. In correlation, we are simply interested in finding the relationship between two or more variables. But in regression, we are not only interested in the strength of the relationship between the variables, but we are also interested in the direction as well. Okay. Hello.
Yes.
More.
We are here.
I am trying very, very well to break it down to your level. Okay, so don't be scared by the numbers displaying to you. When we talk about regression analysis, it simply means that we are using some mathematical and numerical estimation techniques to verify how two or more variables are related. Okay, how two or more variables are related. Now, in correlation analysis, you can also do the same estimation, except that in correlation, you can determine the effect of one variable over the other. So let me quickly show you something. Please, can you see my screen? What are you currently seeing?
A plain screen.
Good. So please, what can you see now?
Alcohol times memory.
Alcohol times memory.
Okay, it's not times, alcohol and memory.
Okay.
All right. So assuming we are doing a research, right? And in this research, we want to find the relationship between alcohol intake and your ability to recall what you have learned in class. In this simple study, we can use correlational analysis simply because our interest is on how alcohol is related to memory. Please, are you listening? How is alcohol related to memory? We can use correlation to do it. But one disadvantage of correlational analysis is that even though it can tell us alcohol intake is related to memory loss, it can actually give us the effect of the alcohol on your memory. So in that regard, we make use of regression analysis instead of correlation analysis, because regression analysis does not only tell us the relationship, but it also tells us the effects of one variable, so over here, the alcohol, over another variable, which is the memory. Please, is it clear so far?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So the main reason why we are using regression analysis is that we want to tell how an independent variable will have an effect on a dependent variable. Please, who can tell me in this scenario, which one will be the independent variable and which one will be the dependent variable?
The memory is dependable and it's independent this variable.
Wow.
Are you sure?
Yes, because it's the memory. The memory will depend on alcohol for the influence or for it to be.
Very good. So the memory is dependent variable and alcohol is independent variable. This is a trick.
Yes.
When we talk about independent variable, they are those variables that are usually manipulated in an experiment or in a study. And its outcome, and it is observed on the dependent variable. So this alcohol can be manipulated by administering it in one tot. So you can have two main groups. One group will be given just a tot of alcohol. Then another group will be given 5 tots. When you administer it this way, we say that is the levels of the independent variable. So this independent variable has two main levels. In one level, we are administering it as 1 tot, and in another level, we are administering 5 tots. So that we will observe whether of the two groups, the one that receives 1 tot will have better recall ability than those receiving 5 tots. So that is independent and dependent variable. Now, let me link it to the HR we are doing. We are now saying that if we want to verify the number of human resources that will be required. Please, can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
You can see, is it blank?
Yes.
Okay, so if we want to verify the number of human resources that we will need to produce to achieve a certain revenue target or a sales volume. Okay, we can use regression analysis to do it. So how do you go about this? Okay, the link will be going off very soon. So when we rejoin again, then I'll continue. But if you have any question, you can ask. Hello. Do you have any questions so far? Yes, Afshetu. Okay, if you don't have a question, I have a question for you. What is the difference between correlation and regression? Correlation analysis and regression analysis.
Sir.
Okay, Fuseni, go on.
I think the correlation analysis is what we just talked about, the dependable variables.
Okay.